What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into my weekly Wednesday Live. This week, I want to talk to you a little bit about staying healthy while you're traveling. So, as you might have seen on Facebook, I was out of town last week. I went to DC to visit my mom and some friends. I've actually been really lucky to travel quite a lot this year. Almost every month, I've been flying somewhere or driving somewhere, sometimes for work, sometimes for fun. And as someone who really likes routines personally, it is always challenging for me to go on the road and stick with the things that I'm doing in the gym and to stick with my healthy eating. So I also work with a lot of clients that travel a lot for work, like significantly more than me every week, maybe every month. So I have a lot of experience helping people negotiate this situation. So today I want to talk about some of my favorite tips for dealing with all of the various things you might encounter on the road. Now, just a little caveat, this is geared more towards if you're someone who travels a lot, traveling for work. If you're going on a family vacation or something, while I encourage you to stay active and maybe be mindful, this doesn't necessarily apply to you because that's more of a one-off thing, and that's about maybe enjoying the food and the culture and whatnot. So this is more geared towards people who travel a lot and find that it's disrupting their health and fitness routines that they've established back home. So first of all, some proper planning can go a long way. So there are a couple of different ways that you can think about this. First of all, if you're traveling for business and you have some say over where you're staying and having access to a gym is important to you, you can either select a hotel that has a gym facility, even if it's a small one, or you can select a hotel that's nearby to a gym that you can visit with a guest pass, or if your gym that you belong to is a member of IRSA, sometimes you can get discounted rates to visit other commercial gyms in different places. So that's definitely worth looking into, especially if you're on the road a lot. Other things that you can do, you can call the hotel ahead of time and you can ask if you have access to a mini fridge and a microwave, because if you are staying at a hotel for a long time, that can make it easier for you to prepare more of your own meals or go to a grocery store and buy some goods to use for meals rather than just eating out all the time. In addition to that, if you do find out you have access to those things, you can scope out, are there any grocery stores nearby your hotel that you can stop by on your way in and pick up some staples, like maybe some protein or hard-boiled eggs or some raw vegetables to snack on, things like that. That can all be looked up ahead of time. So if you know where you're going to be staying, or maybe you even have some control over where you're staying and those things are important to you, you can keep them in mind as you're making your reservations. Okay, so let's say that you have your hotel booked, whatever, you know where you're going to eat, or you know that you're not going to make those kinds of choices, you're just going to eat out, which is totally fine. Now you're at the airport. So the airport can be really challenging. In my experience, personal experience, and talking with other people, a lot of times we do a lot of situational and boredom eating when we're traveling. So for example, situational eating would be, this isn't relevant to traveling, but like you go to the movies and all of a sudden you really want popcorn, even though you never eat popcorn at other times, it's just what you do at the movies. An airport example could be like when you're walking in the terminal and you smell that cinnamon smell wafting around. And that just triggers you, oh, I'm at the airport, I'm gonna have this treat that I would never normally have, or I don't even really want that much. So just because food is around doesn't mean you have to eat it. When you're on the plane, if they're serving a meal or serving snacks and you don't care for them, you can say no. If you're worried about getting hungry, I would recommend packing some healthy snacks that travel well, things like protein bars, packs of nuts, fruits, not like easily damaged fruits, but things like apples and bananas, and beef jerky, whatever snacks you like, that'll kind of hold you over. Same thing for situational eating goes with the beverage cart. Just because the beverage cart is free doesn't mean you have to take anything. You can always get water, you can get coffee or tea or even diet soda. You don't have to get a drink, you don't have to get a pop just because it's free on the plane. So just keep that stuff in mind. If you want to maintain control over what you're eating, it might even be better just to wait it out if your trip isn't very long and then get a meal when you arrive at your destination. So you don't necessarily have to eat at the airport if you can't find food that you like or you're just eating out of boredom. So once you get to your destination, let's talk a little bit about training on the road. So there are a couple of different ways that this can play out. If you're lucky, you will be in a place where you have access to a normal gym, whether that is because you buy a guest pass or maybe you have a nice hotel gym, and in which case I would just try to stick with your normal training routine as much as you can. The next step below that would be maybe you have a hotel gym, but it doesn't have all the equipment that you need, or you're limited in weights. So a lot of hotel gyms will have like a beat up treadmill or maybe an elliptical, and they'll have like a Bowflex or something, one of those machines that has multiple cable hookups. If that's the case, you can improvise. You can take sort of a basic workout and you can find ways to make it more challenging, either by adding reps or intensity techniques, or taking less reps, or maybe adding some conditioning in the middle. You can also invest in some small pieces of equipment if you travel a lot. I really like resistance bands and jump ropes and sliders, because you can increase the repertoire of exercises that you can perform, and you can add resistance. So if you have those things, you can also incorporate them. Now, if you don't have a hotel gym and you're only in your room, having those pieces of equipment will give you a lot more options. So for example, it's difficult to train pulling movements, like train your back without any equipment. But if you have a band, you can perform band pull aparts, you can loop a band around a door and do rows. So right away, just with that one little piece of equipment, you can do a lot more stuff. So I definitely recommend grabbing those things if you travel a lot. If you do just have a hotel room, what I would recommend doing is, equipment or not, I would make on your phone or your device, whatever, a list of body weight exercises or simple exercises that you can perform, that you like, and you can do safely. And then I would just pick a bunch of exercises from the list and put them in a circuit and do as many rounds as you can with good form. Just try to get your heart rate up, try to get moving. Alternatively, if you don't have a lot of time at all, or you don't want to train, just doing some really basic mobility stuff when you wake up or before you go to bed, especially if you've had a long day of sitting in meetings, will help you feel a little bit better. So those are a few options for training on the road. In terms of eating out, you have a few options. I mean, again, if you're on a vacation, I would encourage you just to enjoy yourself and not worry about it too much. But if you're on a business trip and you do have some control over where you're gonna go eat, you can look up menus ahead of time to make sure that there's some options that'll work for you. If you have a lot of chain restaurants around you, these days you can even find like nutrition information online, and calories and things like that. So if you're not really sure what the best option is, but you have some idea of what you should be eating, or if you have a calorie goal, you can look up ahead of time and make a decision that will take some of the pressure off you in the moment. Just in general, prioritize protein and vegetables. Vegetarian or not, make sure that there's some source of protein in your meal. A good portion of your plate is coming from vegetables. And then beyond that, if you're gonna have carbs, a lot of times restaurants really overdo it on the portion sizes. Like if you go to a Mediterranean restaurant and you get rice, they'll give you like 4 cups of rice or even more. So just use your hand. Like a fist size serving of any one food is probably a good amount. If you're super hungry, you could do 2, or you have fewer meals, but if you're eating like heaps and heaps of anything, it's probably not an appropriate portion size. Another trick you can use is to ask for a box right away and just put some of your meal away. Again, just to make sure you're not overdoing it. Even if you're eating healthy foods at restaurants, a lot of times you'll get 2 or 3 portions in a single meal. So you can take some of the pressure off yourself by getting a box and just putting some of it away, and then you have another meal for later. Again, assuming you have access to a fridge, that wouldn't work so well if you don't. Another thing that people struggle with on the road is alcohol. So this is, again, especially true of business trips. A lot of my clients tell me that they want to drink less, but they feel a lot of pressure, social pressure, peer pressure from colleagues or in social situations to drink more than they would like. So there are a few ways that you can approach this. First of all, if you set some sort of drink limit for yourself before you go, whether it's like 1 drink, 2 drinks, whatever, and then you really try to drag out your drinks and you just nurse them, and so you hopefully won't be pressured to drink more than you want to because you still have a drink in your hand. That's one option. Some people have had success appearing to be drinking more than they are by drinking like a soda, like a club soda with lime or something that looks like a drink but isn't actually a drink. So if you think that would work for you, that's another option. If you do want to drink, or you think it's not an option not to drink, there's sort of a hierarchy of drinks that will be more or less ideal, let's say. So most ideal would be like a clear liquor with some sort of non-calorie mixer, like a vodka soda. Next would be wine, preferably not like a super sweet wine or like a 15-ounce glass of wine, like a reasonably sized glass of wine. Beyond that, darker liquors, same thing with a no-calorie mixer, and then beer beyond that. It pains me to say, but each craft beer that you're drinking is going to be like 200 plus calories, so just keep that in mind if losing weight or keeping an eye on your consumption is important to you. If not, then you can ignore this part. And then the last thing would be like really sugary cocktails like margaritas and things like that. Those would be the least ideal option. I don't know about you, but if I drink too many of those, I have a terrible sugar hangover, just aside from the alcohol. So maybe if you're trying to perform well or make some sales or just enjoy your vacation, that might not be the best choice to have a lot of anyway. So just a few things for you to consider if you think that drinking is a problem on these trips. And then the last thing that I would recommend is to sort of fill in some of the nutritional gaps with supplements if you have access to that. So I like a greens powder supplement to take on the road because a lot of times you just don't have the same kind of access to fresh fruits and vegetables that you might at home. So that would be like a powder that you could put in a shaker bottle and just drink when you wake up. Things like a multivitamin or any other regular supplements that you're taking, fish oil, those can help fill in some of the nutritional gaps as well. So just to summarize, these are some of the tips that I've used and have helped my clients use to stay healthy when they're traveling a lot for longer periods of time for business, or beyond just your occasional vacation. So the first thing is to do some pre-planning, find out where you're staying. Do you have access to a gym? Do you have a fridge and a microwave? Can you bring some of your own food or buy food at a grocery store? Bring food for the plane, etc. So find out those things ahead of time. When you're at the airport, make sure that you're not eating just because food is there or because you're bored. Eat when you're hungry. If you're not hungry or you think you can wait when there are not options that are good for you, then go ahead and wait. Hunger is not really an emergency. So if you can wait an hour or two, then you may be able to make a choice that makes you feel a little better. If not, as always, look for healthy snacks like fruits and vegetables. You can eat at restaurants typically and get better options than you can just like at fast food booths in the terminal. So just use your best judgment there. When you get to your location, if you want to train, hopefully you have already determined what kind of facilities you'll have. If you have access to a regular gym, then just stick with your routine as best as you can. If you're just training in a hotel room, I would do kind of like fast-paced body weight circuits, maybe with a band or another piece of equipment. If you travel a lot, I would just make a list of the exercises that you like to use, and then you can just pick and choose as you go through the circuit, and you can change the length of the circuit depending on how much time you have to train. In terms of eating out, if you can, either look at menus ahead of time so you'll know what options you'll have, or even use that information to make selections for your group or for yourself. In general, prioritizing protein and vegetables first of all, and then filling in the rest with healthy carbs and fats beyond that, avoiding obviously less ideal options like fried foods and desserts and things like that. It's a good idea to maybe box up some of your meal when you sit down, because restaurants really tend to overdo the portions. Or at the very least, pay attention, make sure you're not eating more than like 1 or 2 fist-sized servings of any one food on your plate, except vegetables. You can eat whatever vegetables you want. If drinking is a problem or you feel a lot of pressure to drink, set some goals or limits for yourself ahead of time. You can try to appear like you're drinking more than you are, or you can just make selections that will be more ideal. So clear liquor and wine would be best, sugary cocktails would be worse. And then last but not least, continue taking whatever regular supplements you are taking, and maybe consider getting a greens powder or some sort of fruit and vegetable supplement just to fill in the micronutrient gaps that you might not be getting on the road. So if you guys like this information, I have an email list and I send out a lot of stuff like this. I send out blog posts. I make sure you never miss anything that's going on with my product launches and whatnot. And I also send out a newsletter that I have information that I don't cover anywhere else. So I've put a link in my Facebook profile, in the Facebook post of this video. If you're watching this on Instagram, you can go to my profile and click on the link, and there'll be an option to sign up there. And if you guys have any other travel tips that you think I should know or you think other people should know, please drop them in the comments and spread the knowledge for everybody. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good week.